This is 180 milliseconds too late, the SSA Rocket League podcast, and welcome to it. And there is much to talk about. We're sandwiched right between Qualifier 2, which ended last weekend, and Qualifier 3, which gets underway this weekend. And there's lots of drama in and around all of that, so we're going to unpack that as much as possible. All right, fine. So I thought we would get in to come and talk with it. Talk about it all and break it all down with me. Mfish, who was with us on the cast over the weekend, and I thought, being someone who's quite plugged into the EU scene, and given how Rocket League is in SSA, it would be good to have some knowledge coming in from the EU side.
I mean, if that's my unique value proposition, I guess I'll just run with it. I'm the EU guy. I'm the final import. At least to Wordty, I'm the only acceptable one. So I'll have that one in my pocket. But no, it's been fun last weekend, hasn't it? It's a lot happening. Limitless still on top, obviously, and it's an interesting dynamic with the EU teams, and overall this season of RSS with so much uncertainty, and now that it's underway, there's still not drama per se going on, but it does still feel like we're not done yet, right? With everything, we're still unpacking everything.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a snow globe that got shaken, and it's all sort of it started to settle, but there's still a lot going on. But at least you're getting an idea of where the drifts and valleys are going to possibly end up. So, certainty is not something that's not synonymous with Rocket League right now.
Definitely not. I mean, we're getting more and more certain. I think since Blasters took over, shortly before Christmas, in 2 months, to their credit, they've put on a major. They've got everything sorted for RSS in 1 month, despite budget cuts and whatnot. So I think we're getting into smoother sailing. Now, the only thing that's really left to be figured out is official regional coverage, not just for us over here in SSA, but also, for the other regions, APAC, OCE, MENA, the rest of the world, basically. Sam, just to complete the set, but I hope that gets sorted, hopefully for next weekend. Otherwise, I think before qualifier, for Major 2, that should be well sorted.
All right. Well, a couple of things. You mentioned Wordty at the beginning, and I should just say I had a message from Wordty yesterday, which was so interesting and out of the blue. He basically said, "Hey, listen, when we're in between RLCS, or when RLCS is done, I'd love to get into some casting." I was like, "What?" I know. I got really excited by that. So I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this." So we might get him in for
to RSC.
Yeah, we're going to get him into RSC, get him going there. But I've loved the idea of at some point having SSA pros in the casting booth with us, because former pros, once they've retired, they've just got so much inside info, and I'm dying to have that from a local perspective on our cast.
I mean, when Gregan joined, that was the main thing, right? When Gregan joined the EU broadcast, I think that was not for the first time, but it lent a different perspective. I think the players, as I prefer them on desk, as perma analysts, because they just have better knowledge in that regard, and let the casters do their job, and let the ex players ease into that all public speaking thing by being at desk analysts. But I think they can really add something. They can give a unique perspective of our casters might be saying one thing, but they might be completely off their rocker. And when we're talking, when we're analyzing something, they're like, "Yeah, no, it happened for reason A, reason B," and then the analyst on desk is like, "No, it didn't. What are you talking about?" This is what actually goes on in a team, because we don't know, right? Yeah. The only thing that we do is play RSC or play sort of for fun bubble tournaments. We don't play competitively.
Okay, now Mfish, we need to get into the thick of it, but before we do, and I was going to tell you I was going to ask this, and I decided I wouldn't. That I would. Oh God! I would put you off. I'd throw you under the bus live on stream. Now, I know you relatively well. I met you through casting, I think, through Uni Rocketeers, and then I met you in Düsseldorf. I know you're a Düsseldorf native, but you're now live in one of the more metropolitan cities. but I thought I would actually like you to take a minute to like, who the hell are you and why are you involved with Rocket League? What's the story there? Give us, flesh out the Mfish backstory a little.
The backstory, okay, is your character lore is what it's okay. I'm gonna give it to you. So
I want to humanize you, Mfish.
you want to humanize it? All right, that's gonna be difficult, but we'll try. So no, I'm 25. I come from Germany. I'm, as you said, originally from Düsseldorf. I now live in Munich. So upgraded cities in that regard, at least in population size. I'm studying business administration at university, which is part of the reason why I seem to be the only person in the Rocket League esports field that wears shirt regularly. But happens. It's just the style, and yeah, as I said, I'm 25, and I got into Rocket League. I started playing in 2015 because of YouTube videos of like a German gaming group called Pete's Meat, and it seemed really fun, so I just bought it. It was like back then it was still like €10 only on Steam. So I've played since 2015. I do have the bronze season 1 crown equipped because of that. Just to be an OG. And then played in, got better, and eventually by like 2018, when I was like diamond or champ sort of rank, I joined a stream from Shogun who did a 4v4 on APAC servers. So I was a casual watcher of RSCS, and I really enjoyed Shogun's casting, so I stopped by a stream, and quite a few, and then I played a 4v4 on APAC servers, which with just Shogun's chat members. One of the guys, his name was Yui, he DM'd me on Twitch a few days later and said, yo, would you be interested in like playing this amateur league that I found? Because like we just hit it off or had a vibe or whatnot. And I was like, why not? And then, so that was in 2018. And then I started playing in what was the ECC, now, of course, now no longer functioning. It has been resolved, that league. Okay. But I played that for 3 years, and I think we met through that actually even before Uni Rocketeers. It was Slipstream then.
Oh my, of course. Oh my word, I had completely forgotten about them. That's amazing. Okay.
And then that's how picked up as player, got better as a player, but never was too old and never good enough to make any sort of impact. I mean, I peaked low SSL in threes, and that was last season.
Wow, good.
But yeah, so I played a few tournaments now, and then at the beginning of COVID in March 2020, I lost a bet. Basically, we were watching a stream, and I said, yo, this casting is horrible. I can do a much better job. And they were like, okay, let's bet on it. I don't know exactly what it was, but my forfeit was that I have to apply at ECC or at Slipstream to become a caster, basically, and to cast a series. So I did that at the beginning of COVID, and I had so much fun with it that I was like, this is actually something I want to do, like talk in front of people. I had fun with it, got really, really positive feedback, and then, yeah, just everything went up from there. Then went to Uni Rocketeers, which is now the EU partner of CRL. Went into the German casting as well, so I cast in English and German. And then, yeah, met you. I think we did a few RSCS Oceania casts as well. I think we had one.
Really?
I think we had one at like 7 a.m. in the morning, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I got into RSCS casting.
You're right.
I think I and I think I got into RSCS casting mainly because one guy from Slipstream, Dennis, was like, "Yo, I need a caster tomorrow at 7 a.m. I need a caster tomorrow." And he I was like, for an OCE tournament, I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." Oh, can I swear, by the way?
You can. We try to keep it.
Okay.
We keep
okay.
it tidy, but go ahead.
Okay. And I was like, okay, yeah, screw it. Let's do it. So, and that I didn't even know that it was RSCS then. So that's how I got my first RSCS cast, and then obviously was on the first iteration of SSA, which is a reason why I came back now. And I mean, which we've been messaging throughout the years of like, kind of when this timing wise, when does it fit? But I owe a lot two SSA folks, like giving me experience in casting RCS, and yeah, it went from there. Been casting a few lands in Germany as well, and basically have been casting a lot. Now currently doing the team stream for Catalysm, Rizex, and Mark Bite in EU as well. So
all right,
it's a lot.
Well, there we have it. So Mfish, the human being.
Basically, sometimes.
Okay, good. And all right. Well, there we go. So now all of you know who Mfish is. And now we can get into the hot topics of SSA Rocket League. And, well, let's open with this. I mean, the big talking point has been and continues to be the region unlock and EU teams coming to play here. And I've said frequently that my feelings about it shift daily. So we've been talking about EU players here. Now let's talk about Young Money Clan, because they have been the biggest threat in the region. They've made 2 grand finals. They've lost twice to Young Money Clan. And now then they tweeted earlier this week that they are traveling to Reunion Island for the 3rd qualifier. I thought that I was highly skeptical of that. That made no sense to me. I messaged Rio and I messaged their manager Laf. Laf was like, "Oh no, definitely not." And then a few hours later came back and said, "Oh, it is happening. Sorry, I had no idea, and I'm going as well." So they have confirmed that they are leaving on Monday for Reunion Island. So they will play this weekend's qualifier from home in England, and then fly down on Monday and stay for the qualifier. And from what we understand, it's kind of like a proof of concept. If they come and wipe the floor with everybody, then they will probably then stay for the entirety of the 2nd major. And I have thoughts and opinions about that, but your initial thoughts, Mark.
When I read it, I was like, okay, that means for me 2 things. That one, an org has to be interested in them, because they're 16, right? They don't have, as far as I'm aware, they don't have that kind of money to hop on short notice, long distance flights without any backing. The price money in SSA is good, but I don't think it's enough for that. Plus rent a house for the entire week that they'll be staying, or at least the week that they'll be staying, right? So from my perspective, it says that firstly, they are in contact with an org that seems eager to see this proof of concept. It is 100% a proof of concept for me.
Yes.
As well. But yeah, so that's the first one. The second one is, it's going to be really interesting, because whilst it only slashes their ping in half from like, what ping do you get from Reunion? I've seen Willu with like 60 to 80 ping.
Yeah, it's sort of
depending on.
Yeah, I think there's a variance, but I think it can be as good as like mid-40s up to sort of 80-ish.
Okay, but that's a lot. Like, that's a big difference, right? From 160, 180 ping down. So that's really the main point. Is I think they want to find out for themselves as well if it really just is the high ping, or if Limitless is actually clear. Because I've said it I think on Sunday as well. I think Limitless, if they would play in EU on low ping, are a contender for day 3s, which is top 64 EU.
Okay, well, never. We're going to get in a moment to what we think this actually means for a potential Limitless Young Money Clan finale on lower ping. But I was wondering, I mean, they fly on Monday, which means they're going to probably get there either very, very late on Monday or probably early Tuesday morning, something like that. Then they have to find their way to the place. They've got to settle it. Look, they're 16, so they have a lot more energy than I might find that. But then they've got to get set up. And we have no idea what the setup is, who's hosting them, what is the PC situation, internet situation. Has that all been sussed out? So that's my first concern, is that are they going to be up and running and ready in time? They have the whole week, so you would assume between Monday or even Tuesday and Friday, they can get that all sorted out. They have also taken time off school, and they're in college, and somebody said that the first year of college doesn't really matter. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's like, yeah, well, we take some time off college, not the end of the world. They've also all 3 of them have managed to convince their parents that this is a solid idea. And I did message Rio, and I said, I hope you've had a consultation and conversation with a responsible adult, not just in Rocket League, but just in terms of what this all means and the implications and whatever, and that you're settled, and that there's somebody in Reunion who can settle you into the island, the do's and don'ts, the culture, where to get some food, how to do all the things there. And anyway, he seems quite confident that they've sorted all of that out. But look, at 16 is an adventure, but it's still, in my mind, a bit of a gamble.
It is a gamble, but we've seen next Aqua with test down, so I hope that Rio and co, like Young Money Clan, have spoken to like the players from Next and be like, okay, what's the sort of situation down in Reunion? Is it actually feasible? Like, what's it all about? I hope they had that conversation, or if not, they will have that conversation before next Monday. The one thing that I don't necessarily like is that the fact that they're taking time off school. That's why I'm like, okay, I understand the desire, and you have to make bold plays, and if you want to make this your career. But it is out there. It is definitely out there. And I'm a big sucker for education, so that's a bit of a worry for me. But overall, I think if they want to take a go, this is probably their best chance to do it now. I think that's if timing was the thing, I think now is the perfect timing for that.
So with regard to my fluctuating feelings about all of this, I'm on record as saying that given all the EU teams that came to play here, I had the most respect for Next because they at least moved here. They actually made an effort. They came here, they settled in, and they're staying for the entire season in Reunion. And I was like, I can respect that. And then Young Money Clan, I hear, okay, they're going to Reunion, so they're also coming here, but they're doing it. It's a little bit more like, hey, we're coming for a week kind of thing. And I find myself not struggling to be as magnanimous about it. To me, it feels like, how desperate are you to take the opportunities away from local players that you're going to make that effort? And I realize I'm over-emotional, so I might not be rational in that thought. So I don't know what your thoughts are around that, but it doesn't sit comfortably with me. And I'm not going so far as to say I'm really opposed to it, but I'm like, really, you really want to come here and do that? I don't know, Mark. And maybe you can bring some EU rationality to the conversation.
I mean, it's the old adage that in EU everyone thinks SSA is free, which I think clearly has been pointed out now that, yeah, if you meet an SSA player in ranked, and that's no offense to the SSA players in ranked, they just have that massive disadvantage of playing on 180 ping, right? And I think now the EU players get how actually horrible it is to play on that high ping, so it's actually not free, and Limitless are really good. Mm-hmm. The thing is that I think, and Young Money Clan said as much themselves, which is in Europe they get $300 if they finish where they would expect themselves to finish. And as a second place, which they believe they can comfortably get in SSA, they got 2.4k.
Yes.
It's a simple 8-fold prize money increase for them. And if they manage to upset Limitless, is 6k. And let's not forget they're 16, right? So that's proper money at that age, right? That's
money budget.
That's proper money at that point. So I feel like it's not to take away. I don't think that's the mission statement. It's not to take away from SSA. It's just for their own pockets, which is, in my eyes, a fair reason to come down. And I think after Region 1, they even said, whether publicly or the manager said, or at least I read it somewhere, that they were like, yo, Limitless are just really good on that ping. We don't think we can beat Limitless on that ping.
All right. Well, fair comment. So on that point, let's talk about a low ping matchup. And I will say this, and I made the comment on the desk during the broadcast on the weekend, that I do think Limitless has had a hand in making Young Money Clan a little bit better. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean it in a facetious way, and I think it does go both ways, because Limitless for a long time, and we've said it from all the way back from our first season in RLCS, is Limitless, or Orlando Pirates as they were then, how do they what drives them to continue being better. And Snowy has admitted that it's hard, because once you're in front, to motivate yourself more further can be difficult when you don't have the opposition. Now, probably for the first time, they do, and it is serious competition. So from that point of view, that's probably good for Limitless. And now I get to my very long-winded statement, which is the head-to-head between Limitless and Young Money Clan right now is 8 games. They've played each other in 8 games over 2 series. There's 9 games, I beg your pardon, and the head-to-head is 8-1. The reduction in ping is the reduction in ping significant enough to overcome that?
It will have a the thing is, I think Snowy said as much. No one knows high ping from EU to SSA better than the SSA players.
Right.
So they know how to play against that, and they have tactics just inherently like hardwired for that. So they're going to have to deal with a Young Money Clan that will play very differently now that they are on a not necessarily equivalent ping, but a much, much lower. As you said, it's 40 to like 80. So if we take medium, it's 60 ping, and that's just playable. You can normally play like that. Like maybe the ball will spasm a bit, like, but it will hardly rubber band as badly as it will now, or would have now. And if we actually look back at this grand final, just at the game scores, Game 1 was a 1-0 in favor of Limitless. Game 2, 3-1 for Young Money Clan. Game 3, 5-1 Limitless, and then 2-1 with an overtime, and then 4-3. The 4-3, I think that had a 0-second goal at the dying stages, so let's call that a 4-2. But it was overall, I feel like, very, in terms of skill and in terms of gameplay, I think it was very close games to what we've seen. And if Limitless trounces them every time in sort of like wins every game like 6-1, 5-1 sort of thing, then I don't think the ping would do that much. But because it's about those details and those minute details, you could see where Limitless just had an advantage, a clear advantage, because they were able to basically see what's going on quicker than the opposition. So the follows were quicker, the positioning was more concise. And I feel like because it's a sort of series like that where they are on skill level quite close together, YMC will be closer, and I wouldn't necessarily call it an upset should they beat Limitless. But I still think regardless, it's going to be a close 4 series. Probably the closest we've seen.
All right. Well, then I've got some just on the issue of stats. I had our now resident statistician, analyst of Romeo dig into the last 2 qualifiers, specifically the head-to-head between Limitless and YMC. And just on all the base stats. So Limitless have scored 29 goals. 13 have been scored by Young Money Clan. Assists are 18 for Limitless, 13 for YMC. Shots 83 to 61. So by and large, I mean, Limitless are having the better of the obvious stats. So it does seem well. I mean, the most frequent comment in chat is, yeah, well, if it was on equal ping, it'll be a different story. And like at the start of the season where we had no idea what this was going to all mean, we're not going to know until Sunday night, just over a week from now, and about 10 days from now, 3rd of March. Then we're going to know. And that will be settled as to how much of an influence ping has been played. So until then, go ahead.
No, I was just scrolling through the stats and I found something interesting. Just make your point first.
No. I was going to move to another aspect of this. So if you have something, okay, fine.
Okay,
so, go ahead.
I mean, if you're talking about stats between the two, I think where it showed that they're actually really close together in sort of skill is sort of how they move around the pitch and how they use boost management.
Yeah.
I think if we look at I've just having a scroll through their grand final series, boost management wise and like positioning wise and speed wise, they are very close together in those sort of areas. Like they are incredibly close. to that Young Money clan, maybe a bit more wasteful in the boost, but they do pick up more as a result. Their average boost is basically identical. Their speed is basically identical. So their movement overall, just YMC has got a bit higher peaks. So I feel like because that's the reason why I think that on equal ping, this could be a very, very close, probably Game 7 sort of affair, because it's going to be a constant tug of war, because now Limitless have to not just play with the ping as their advantage and play Young Money Clan plus high ping, but they have to really find a game plan for Young Money Clan, the team, which they will play differently. So it's going to be a lot harder to find a game plan.
All right, so
basically Noxus needs to do a lot of work.
Absolutely, he's going to have to earn his coaching dollars.
Yeah.
and provide the information and the strategy they need. So the last point I want to cover on this, and then we can move on to something else, but is one of the questions I had, and I completely understand your point that, they're going to make $300 in EU, but they come here, they're making 8 times that, and fair enough. But it's hard to know what their long-term ambitions are with regard to Rocket League. Is this then saying, well, we're not going to make it in Europe, so let's go and make a bit of cash in SSA? Because I don't know how much this hurts their efforts to have an impact in Europe. And I mean that on a couple of, especially if they come here, because if they come here, they're going to have to be doing a lot more scrimming and playing of SSA players. And I know they have been, but they're going to be almost exclusively doing that. And while that might raise the level slightly of those they play against, by a natural consequence, their level sort of sinks and they sort of meet at some sort of point of equilibrium. And I just wonder overall, from a reputational and skill level, does this not...
What do you mean, does it stall them?
Does it set them back in their Rocket League ambitions globally?
I think they are not exclusively scrimming SSA teams. I think every time they do scrim South African teams, they do play on SA service just to get used to.
I mean, they're not doing it now, but they're going to have to do it when they're in Reunion.
I mean, yeah, but they're only there for a week, so that's going to be a week of fully just basically preparation for that third regional. I think they're going to have to do that, but they're only there for a week, right?
Sorry, let me extend the question, because assuming they stay for the second split. So now...
assuming so, okay.
Now they have 2 months.
Okay, so they win this region, they fly back during off-season, and then they come down for split 2 and just stay the entire split 2 down in Reunion. Basically is what... Okay. That's interesting because it depends on their work ethic, and I don't think we know them well enough to make any assumptions on that.
Yes.
Because we don't know what their work ethic is. They are going to be scoring Limitless a lot more, which is good practice. I think it's going to improve both of them. But in terms of EU or maybe giving up on EU, I don't think they are necessarily, just by being done Reunion, because it's a finite time. These qualifiers happen really, really quickly, right? It's 3 qualifiers in the span of 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So it's a month and a half, and you could still use that. You can improve, and I'm a firm believer that you can improve in Rocket League without playing ranked. You can just do workshop maps ad nauseum. You can just do free play ad nauseum. It's not fun for me personally, but if they do have the drive to do that and then just play on SA servers and play on EU occasionally ranked, I do think that it doesn't necessarily stall them at all. Quite the contrary, it could lead to them using their practice time more efficiently and more knowingly. Really, they go into they open Rocket League, and for 2 hours, they're going to do nothing but aim training. So, you sort of adapt your training regimens to where you are around the world. And when they're back in EU, they're going to be scrimming all the day 2, day 3 level EU teams.
So basically, after burning half an hour talking about this, it comes down to lots of questions, not enough answers.
Exactly, right? We're just waffling, but we're really good at that.
That's what they don't pay us for.
Oh, curses. Foiled again.
All right, fine. Okay, so let's move on to more broader topics. So I want us to have a look at the standings so these are the standings as they are right now, as of the end of qualifier 2. And really the only one that's of huge significance is that number 1 slot, because that's the slot that goes to majors, that's the slot that goes to worlds. And after 2 wins, Limitless sit on 32, Young Money Clan sit on 24. So yeah, and what that all boils down to is that Limitless, as long as they make semi-finals, they book their seat into the major in Copenhagen. But interestingly enough, the top 6 is half EU, the top 10 is half EU. So it's, that answers the immediate question of the impact of EU players coming here.
The EU players that do have skill, but the one thing with those rankings I'm really interested in is, will either Limitless or YMC play the format? And by what I mean by that is, will YMC intentionally want to snipe Limitless in quarters?
Well, so since
because for me that is not unsporting. It's a bit scummy, but it's not unsportsmanlike. You're playing to get to the major, and if that's the only way to get to the major, I think it's fair game.
Okay,
and also if you can read the Swiss system that well, then you sort of it's like, okay, you sort of deserve that. But that for me is a bigger question because we had that in MENA, right, last year. When it was the group stage and Rule 1 needed to beat Falcons in quarters or semis or something to still go to major.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's scummy. It's maybe not the best sportsmanship, but I think it's overall fair. I don't think it's cheating.
Oh, okay. Well,
for me, it'd be fair game.
All right. Well, now that you're talking conspiracy theories, I had one.
Oh God!
So Gyfty, who's a big mate of the Young Money Clan crew, was on Gyfty for the last qualifier, and in Swiss they were matched up, first round match against Young Money Clan, and they apparently didn't see the messages on Discord that they were due to play, and they didn't, which then gave an auto 3 points to Young Money Clan, and I was like, something seems a little... And now Gyfty's no longer on Gyfty. He's now on Unknown Goats, and we'll come to them in a moment. But I go, would it extend further than just reading the Swiss system?
Personally, I think that's maybe a bit too much, because I think YMC has the number on every other EU team.
Yeah,
it's simple as that. I think YMC just has the number of every single EU team. I don't think Drift Queens can beat them. I don't think Gyfty can beat them. I don't think 77 Blocks can beat them. Okay. And those 3 for me are the closest contenders in terms of EU. So yeah, I think YMC is clear. Okay. I mean, I personally thought 77 Blocks had the best chance because their defense is just that solid.
Yes,
but I mean, we've seen in Swiss round 3 what happens. They got decimated.
All right, so let's talk about qualifier number 3. So this is the breakdown. A total of 95 teams, verified teams. 102 signed up, but seven didn't make it through verification. 58 of those are SSA, which is down by 3 from the last qualifier. EU teams is 31, which is up by that's down by 1 or 2, or up by 2. I forget now. MENA's got 2, which is pretty much what they've had. North America 1, which is fabulously entertaining. And then there are 2 mixed teams, and I know you're quite excited about that, and we are going to talk about that in a moment. So that's the overall breakdown. Now let's talk about Gyfty. Gyfty is interesting to me because Jelly has been the constant, but 2 of their players were banned, and so the whole team was disqualified in qualifier 1. Gyfty Moon, who you're just talking about, played for them in the last qualifier, and now this Gavin Jar, who may or may not have been in the first one, I don't know, but they're making their 3rd crack and 3rd roster at this.
Basically, from what I can see, compared to Major 2, they basically just got rid of Gyfty. They're now fully Italian. Gwinja seems to be their coach, and Drak was their substitute. is from or Draco. I hate X's in the name.
Yeah,
please stop doing that. You're doing a favor to absolutely no one. But from what I can see, it's probably now that their sub Draco is now just as a main player, they got rid of Gyfty for reasons.
Well,
which reasons I don't know.
Well, Gyfty picked up unknown goats, so maybe there were greener pastures. So who knows? I mean, it feels like everyone outside the top 8 is pretty much flying by the seat of their pants. So I think a bunch of the top 8 at least have their heads on and kind of have a direction they're going in.
I mean, it's the EU bubble mentality. If it doesn't work out for one tournament, you're gone.
You know,
it's importing EU bubble mentality, which I hate.
Well, you know what? But that comes out of rank, doesn't it? Because you team up with a random. It goes well, so you then party up, and the next game you lose, and the guy's like out of there. Like, I'm not even.
It's like, just leaves the gone. All right, nah, I'm out.
Okay, so surprisingly, a bunch of EU teams that have been playing either qualifier 1 or 2 are no longer there. But there are a bunch of new EU teams, and I don't really know them. So this is, no, that's the wrong one. We want to look at that one. So these are all the new EU teams competing, and I don't know what jumps out at you immediately in terms of, these might be good. Who the hell is that? And maybe.
So basically, out of that list of what is it? Let me quickly count: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. 13 teams.
Yeah.
10 of them I have no clue about. I've not heard the names once. The only names that I recognize out of sort of the EU bubble are Team Titsaki, 2+1, and Unknown Goats. So Gyfty's new team, actually.
Yes.
So, and I'm just going to talk about it from what I believe is going to be best to worst. So, the best out of those 3, easily Unknown Goats. Chrono has been around the top of, or like the first division of the various European national leagues for like the better part of 2 years now. He's Dutch. He's really good. Gyfty, I mean, we've seen him. Spirals has been playing in Sweden, and he is Swedish. So he's clearly had the worst ping from all the way up now north in the Arctic Circle. But he's been playing in the Swedish national competition. Has picked up a few second place finishes there, which is a good competition. Svenska Raketligan, if you want to check it out on Wikipedia. And Trickstars is Norwegian, and also they're all high level. Basically, they're all 2K plus.
Are they a team that would compete with Young Money?
Depends. Now that YMC is down, I think Unknown Goats are there soon.
Okay.
They are.
But keep in mind the qualifiers happening in. They're still hyping qualifying.
Yeah, but I don't think. I think they don't meet in the qualifier. I have to let me quickly double check, but I don't think they'll meet in qualifier. Or they shouldn't at least. But yeah, for me, they sort of like
on equal ping. Are they compared?
Close game
to Wine?
Close game.
Okay.
Close game. The problem is I haven't seen too much of Spirals and Trickstars. I haven't seen them play enough. I just know their results from Wikipedia, basically.
All right.
But they are so good, and like in last year's qualifier format, they had a few day two runs when they've played. So that's sort of like top 64 EU sort of thing, if you count the pro teams with that as well. But I think they are shooing for main event, probably even a shoo-in for top 8. I think they're that good.
Okay.
Then you've got Team Titsaki, which is a fully Dutch team. Owen and Wesley.
Many Dutch players playing SSA. Yeah.
They are. I mean, they also sort of speak the language. Afrikaans and Dutch isn't like.
Yeah, but it's
similar.
Got a Reunion Island.
It's easier to get a visa. It's EU. It's France. It's easy. You can just travel there. You don't need a visa. You could just travel there.
Listen, you don't need a visa for South Africa. Every European country could fly into South Africa tomorrow. Walks.
I didn't know that.
Oh, there you go.
But maybe they just want to keep being the EU because something's easier on that. I don't know. But, Owen, Jinx, and Wesley, they've played together for more than a year now. They're just a vibe team, so they are good. They are SSL, all three of them. Okay. I think around 2K-ish, maybe a bit lower. So like that 1900 to 2K range, I think. They've been playing quite well in the Dutch competitions. So yeah, for me, they're basically a better version of Team Flipper for me.
All right.
So expect them to make main event.
All right, fine. So it's I mean, and just about the entirety of the European continent is represented there. You're from Spain, Portugal, United Kingdom, the Netherlands.
We don't France.
No, none of the French. Which is actually a surprise given Reunion, to be honest. Oh well,
you're Reunion are French.
There's Lizard Gang who are French. That's the
yeah, but like, come on.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, cool. So a bunch of new EU teams. We'll see how they fare. Let's turn our attention now to SSA teams. A team performing really well is Mongolia, and a team almost performing very well is Bonjour. Bonjour a bit frustrating because I feel like they could have taken in very important elimination games against some of the EU teams. But I don't know what your thoughts are on it. To me, it seems more. There's almost a mental jump more than anything else because, especially Mongolia, seeing what they do out there. For me, they are a team that could have taken down Young Money Clan if they'd met up. Bonjour. Yeah. Will we see the proper return of these two very good SSA teams?
Well, it's difficult to argue that Mongolia is really out of because they have two top fours in a row, right?
Yeah,
they've made top four twice, and then they were just on Limitless side of the bracket.
Yes.
I mean, if you are a local team and you play Limitless, you pretty much know that there's it's not a non-zero chance, but it's less than 10% that you win against Limitless because they are just that good. But I think Mongolia are just doing exactly what they need to do. They go through the Swiss stages relatively good. I think they've been 3-1 both times. And they've lost to Limitless and YMC in the Swiss stages. So I feel like that those are acceptable losses to have if your only losses in Swiss are against YMC, are against the top two, right? So I think Mongolia is doing everything, but I understand your point on Bonjour, where Bonjour make it through the Swiss stage sort of Yeah. Basically, they beat all the SSA teams, but then they lose to the top four EU teams. But they have the frustrating thing about Bonjour is that they have chances to win. Yeah. They could have beaten Next Aquavitas, and they probably should have beaten Drift Twins.
35 seconds from the series-winning game, they were ahead.
Anyway, but that's maybe then the thing of like desperation tactics coming out from high-paying players who are just going to chase everything, and you have to deal with that. And if you can't, then unlucky.
All right,
I guess.
Well, now let's talk about the mixed teams because we did have a roster breakdown. August, Dax, Declan, and Eli Kim. Disappointing results, fair enough. I mean, they didn't perform as well as they wanted to. And that kind of led to the breakdown of the roster. Eli left. And so Daps and Declan have picked up Bigfoot, who has done some time in RLCS. He might be a little rusty, but not the worst pickup. But the interesting one is Dawnstar, the new roster of Dawnstar, which is Eli and Ram. And it's worth noting that all the way back in our first season in RLCS, Eli and Ram were on the roster of Royal. Oh my word! How have I forgotten the name?
Royalty Esports.
Royalty Esports.
Wait, but they weren't.
Weren't Ram and Eli on that same?
Nah, that was Eli with Zero and Eugen. Was it on Digital Devils? Maybe.
Word. Okay, so that
You're
killing my entire narrative story.
I'm sorry, man.
Okay, fine.
I'm trying to save it. I'm looking through all of Eli's teams.
No, don't panic. Don't panic. The point being that so Eli did very well on royalty. Ram is a solid player, and has been a top 4 player. And there are players that maybe need to find the right sort of third, the right team. But they are now a mixed team. They have picked up an EU player for Dawnstar, and it's a player you're familiar with.
Well, I've stalked him a bit.
Well, there you go. That's familiar.
I'm
model familiarity.
So it's Vela, who is from the island of Malta, for which anyone doesn't know where that is. That I wouldn't blame you, first of all. And second of all, it's in the southern part of the Mediterranean. So it's sort of, if you think about the Earth, it's sort of on the same northern axis than Tunisia and northern Algeria. So it is quite south for Europe, but it is an island in the Mediterranean. Also, apparently, a great tax shelter, but that's for another day. But yeah, so he's from there.
Glenn there.
So yeah, he's from that little island. He is 2.1k in 2s.
Okay.
He's also peaked SSL in 3s, so he is genuinely good as far as ranked is concerned. Doesn't really have any sort of Liquipedia results, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah. So nothing concrete in that. So it's in terms of competitive, it's a bit of a it's a blank canvas. So we hope that, of course, he gives us a bit more on this weekend and next weekend. But theoretically, he should be high level, and this is really the final evolution of the storyline that we've been talking a lot about on Desk, right? Where we're saying these EU imports, it's short-term pain for long-term gain because they're going to make the region as a whole better. And yes, you get better by playing against them, but you know what makes it even better? It's playing with them, learning their secrets, having someone like that in your comms, in your ears, immediately understanding how they view the game. I think that's the real push, and I expected those mixed teams to come along a lot earlier than they did.
Yes, and look, I mean, it was such a scramble. I mean, I think there was like a week from the announcement of everything to like the first qualifier.
Yeah.
It was very, very close. So there was like hardly any time. So it was hard for, and I know there were some EU players looking for SSA people, but all the higher level ones that they would want to team with it were already on teams. But you've made the point already, and I agree with you that we're going to see a huge shakeup. Not with like Limitless and Young Bunny Clan and one or two others, but I think we're going to see a massive shakeup with everything under top 4. And I think we'll see some very interesting rosters coming around for the second split for Major 2. And for my final word on the whole EU SSA, no, I say final word, and there'll be an absolute lie. There will be lots of
there were many more.
many more words, but currently
also, by the way, I've just looked up, Vela has made a day 2 in Europe in the old qualifier format.
Oh, okay. So there we go. So
he has competitive experience.
All right, fine. And I've just seen a very late message that the music on stream is a bit loud. I hope it hasn't detracted for the last 50 minutes. It's going to be difficult. As much as we love talking, we can't recap it all.
Okay, it's been a bit much.
But my okay, not final word, but maybe final word for tonight on the topic is I really, really liked Mr. Lowe's tweet, which he tweeted, I think, over the weekend sometime. And if I was smart, I would have screen grabbed it and showed it up here now. But he effectively said that the fact that there were 5 EU teams in the qualifier in the top 8 this past weekend shows how complacent SSA has become, and that we're kind of whining about things because it's not fair. Yet for the last 6 years, all the top teams have been yearning and calling and dying for tough competition. And now that it's here, we're kind of crying about it. And his final words were, "Get better." And in many ways, I did agree with that. That as emotionally taxing as I have found it, competition has got to be good. If there are better people, and I know there's the potential of an entire English team representing sub-Saharan Africa at a major, which is bizarre. It blows my mind. And we might have to suffer that once, but I don't believe we will suffer it more than once, if indeed it even happens, because I have huge faith in Limitless. But the old cliche Macht of, steel sharpens steel and all of that, better competition has got to be good. And I'm thinking about the 12, 13, 14-year-olds who are going to come into the scene where they're not crying about what they've lost. Into that fire of competition will be the way the world is for them, and they will sharpen themselves against that standard.
It's good for the younger talent, definitely, because it's always going to be in place. I agree with Mr. Lowe's tweets pretty much 100%, but for the usage of the word complacent. I don't think complacent is a fair assessment if you see how hard Limitless has been working, how hard the top has been working. I don't think complacency is necessarily the right word, but I know what he meant with it, so I'm not trying to be too teachery about it. In the end, I think it's the correct sentiment. You ask and you shall receive, basically. And the get good, it's a little bit on the nose, but I love it. That's esport, right? It's just that's the online gaming. It's just get good, don't complain, be better than them, easy. They're playing on 180 ping. You have literally no excuse. But yeah, so overall, I agree with that tweet, and I agree with the sentiment. And I mean, we could even draw a parallel to other facets of Rocket League esports, right? Gen G had 2 Europeans playing with a North American with Chronic when they became 4 major champions. It was a huge debate. Are they an EU team? Are they an NA team? And in the end, I think Nolly said it on stage, we are playing for North America. We are an NA team. And that's the same thing should a European team or a team comprised of 3 players that are born and raised in Europe should make major in that SSA spot. Yes, they may be from Europe, but they are an SSA team. They now, as a reality of just a factual reality, they belong to the region. It might be a hot take, but that's at least the way I see it. And I mean, if YMC or any other team that should make it is smart, that's the way they should phrase it. They are representing sub-Saharan Africa, and
I will say
overall,
I'll go finish.
Yeah, and overall, and I mean, that coming in with the mixed teams, if there are 2 players from South Africa, let's just say Doldstar, right, make Major 2 for whatever reason, right? Vela is a part of that team. He may be European, but he's a part of a sub-Saharan African team. He's a part of an SSA team. He is basically from SSA for all intents and purposes. You could even see it in WCB if we take the twist to the women's scene, where the world champion to the top 2 NA teams, in fact, Misfits and Gen G, had during the WCB World Championship sort of thing, they had 1 import player from Europe. They had Ravina from Misfits, and current WCB World Champion was Gen G. 2 Americans with a German player. So it's just cross-region. It's mixed. It's to take the best out of everything that you can get.
Well, look,
and that team in the end will represent SSA as a region.
Okay, I do think broadly, because if we look at this region Unlock the World over, no other region is having difficulty with import teams. It is only SSA that is having difficulty with it, and we're having difficulty with it because we're a developing region. We're perceived as being easy, and if half our top 8 is EU. I don't think we're as easy as they thought, but certainly they're gonna make $1,000 as opposed to $300. Why not come and do it here? I do think the other regions are big enough and good enough that it's not worth the ping disadvantage, and we've got to get ourselves there as quick as possible. I understand in a general way why Epic did what they did, because they don't want to be policing it. They don't want to be involved with, you've lived in South Africa for 2 months, you can play, you can't. It's too much admin. Just open it up.
Yeah.
If you want to suffer the pain, go and do it. I get that. I don't necessarily 100% agree with it, but I kind of get where they're going with it. We have to make ourselves better, that we repel naturally an invasion here, because now you have to work too hard to maybe get $300 or $600 in SSA, and maybe just go and finish 128th in EU and get your $300 there. I get all of that. And then I do think we're living in a time of chaos for RLCS. Blast took over managing RLCS. They had a couple of weeks to get this show on the road. It was a scramble. We saw the chaos and how late the announcements came. Bad announcements, bad calls. Everybody's on the same weekend. Oh, no, everybody but EU. Oh, everybody can play everywhere. It's been madness. And I do think there is a sense of, okay, we're going to make all the horrible changes all at once and see what works, what doesn't. And after the first season, we will start to pick it up, because Blast have got this for 4 years. So they want to take it from the base that is going to be 2024 chaos and build it up. And that might mean a rule change. I think there's probably a 10% or worse chance of that rule change happening, but maybe one of the consequences is a change in that rule.
Perhaps it will be, but I also wouldn't say that it would be. I'm hesitant to say it's good or bad, because I'm fairly neutral about it. I'm a big fan of sporting competition, and in my mind, sporting competition is literally may the best team win, which is a reason why I don't understand the entire bitching about the format on Twitter. If your team doesn't perform, there's only one thing to blame, and that's the team not performing, and not the opponent, and not the format. But that just as a parenthesis around that whole thing. I think it's entirely fair game to open up everything. As you said, it's a lot of admin that gets reduced. I think the admins gracefully appreciate that, now that they don't have to police that. It's literally, come here, play. If you have played another region before, you are getting DQ'd. That's it. And you can easily check that on Start.GG. That's the amount of admining they have to do, which I think it's good overall, opening the regions. Because even if regions stay closed, we all sort of forgot about APAC. APAC had this exact issue of import teams, or one import team in particular, taking away their spot in James Cheese come Elevate. When Virtuoso and Kami went over to APAC, Kami came from OC, Virtuoso literally came out of Europe and played on APAC, because they were like, yo, if we play there, we're gonna make major. And the APAC regions, they bitched about it for about a split, and then they were like, okay, cool. It's just how we roll with it. It had different hurdles. Yes, they had to move there, and yes, they had to stay there because of the then rules. But I would say, even if the regions would have been closed, with how much talk there has been of teams relocating to Reunion or to South Africa, I think it would have happened for this year anyway. I think one org would have had the guts to just pick up a team, place it down here, and then just let it play down here. I think it would have happened regardless. It's just happening in a lot higher frequency now. And I think overall, especially with these mixed teams now, it's gonna improve. And even still, players playing APAC that's not from APAC. LA Signum just made a grand final in APAC with 2 out of 3 players playing out of Los Angeles on APAC servers.
Hold on. Were they playing out of
Luna? Luna and one of his teammates, I think it was Nye. Luna and Nye, I think, played out of Los Angeles.
Wasn't Luna one of the players that wanted to move here and play?
Yeah, same. Yeah, many. Yeah, little. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, it is. Oh, my word.
Okay, but I don't know if it's Luna and Nye or just Luna, but Luna played out of Los Angeles to play in APAC.
Well, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have to say, and this is an important point for, because a lot of what I've said, I speak from the viewpoint of players, and I imagine being the Mongolias and Bonjours and Limitless and whatever who've bled their heart into trying to be at the top of the scene, and then having this sort of wrench thrown into things. I will say this. I mean, SSA has had more attention in the, where are we now? We're sort of toward the end of February, call it 6 to 7 weeks. More eyes, more attention, more conversation about this region than ever before. And that is a good thing, including European players, European people who have come into the streams, who've connected with our community and have fallen in love with it and want to be a part of helping it and supporting it. When I was watch partying on my stream, anything from 2, 4, 5, 6, 800 people at one point. That unheard of numbers for me as a streamer, but most of that coming from outside of the region to come and see what the region is about, what we're about. That is a good thing. I think it does bode well for generating enthusiasm for the region and perhaps even support in the mid to long term.
And also building credibility, because everyone thought, with taking YMC again as an example, in Europe, people thought if YMC doesn't win SSA, Lamau, how do they not farm SSA?
Yes.
But I think this is giving some proper credit to Limitless and to the rest of the region that they are actually good. They're not free. They might not be like a top 16 team in Europe. They might not be a top 16 team in North America. Or let's say they wouldn't make a major playing out of Europe, but that's not the point. The point is they are still a very good team, and I think that helps the region as a whole be more respected in the future. Yes, of course, people will still say, "Oh, SSA is free; they shouldn't have a major spot," but those people are dumb, and they shouldn't voice their opinion.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think this coming down and this mingling of crowds is one very, very positive and has overall net positive means on SSA as a region.
Well, listen, on the subject of SSA being free and coming here to farm us, it's put up enough of a fight that it's made 3 16-year-olds plus their 18-year-old manager to leave their homes and fly halfway across the world to try and do better. So I think there's something to be said for that.
I mean, I've just written an article where I literally had one of the subheadings was a tour of the world by using Rocket League, and I used YMC as that example in that article. So I think that's exactly it. It's an incredible opportunity. Let's not forget, we're playing a video game here. It's completely bizarre that people are leaving their homes at those young ages. They're experiencing the world. They will grow as people overall, because that just happens when you're away from home and when you're being away multiple thousands of miles away from home as well. It overall, they're gonna have it's just great to have that, to get people have those experiences. Of course there are downsides, but there's downside to everything in life. I mean, I personally just say it as Mr. Lowered. Bring it on. Let's go. Get good. And then let's use this to make SSA a truly respected region and to make Limitless damage at a major. I can't wait for Limitless to win their first series on a major.
Yeah, listen, I can't wait. It is coming.
I can't wait.
And the bottom line is, despite all our feelings, all the emotion, is it good, is it bad, is it whatever, it is a reality. It is here.
Yeah.
And when we are faced with change, we all struggle. And we all go through an emotional curve. We get surprised, we get frustrated, we get angry, we hit denial. And then eventually, as with grief, acceptance comes. And when acceptance comes, we find opportunity. And I think part of the reason that we've now vomited out here for the last hour about this is part of that process of coming to acceptance. Because when we do accept it, we will get better. We deal with what we've got. And absolutely, there are going to be casualties. We will see OGs retiring and going, you know what, this is too much hard work. But on the other end of the scale, there are 13-year-olds right now who are hungrier than ever before, and they are going to be grinding away because they want to make their mark, no matter how good the opportunity is. So the more we encourage that, the better we are in the long term. And we are going through the short-term pain phase of all of this.
Yeah.
We're going to have to kind of suck it up and do the best we can.
nothing more to be said about that. Honestly, it's I just want to hit on the sort of younger player thing that you mentioned. I think you mentioned it on Sunday as well in the interview with Snowy, where Altruism has a pupil at a school who's like 13 and already like C3, GC1-ish in Rocket League. Like, for those players that are up and coming, that are younger, that really see this now, that maybe have the competitive drive, to not just have the one top team of Limitless, but have different avenues.
Yes.
Connect with people a bit closer to their age. No offense, but Snow is like 10 years their senior. Is it like 23 or 22?
Correct.
Snowy?
23, yeah.
He's like the big brother, but it's sort of already a bit too old to be the big brother, sort of thing. So it's a weird dynamic. So to have these younger, yeah, exactly, they're like a young and hip uncle maybe, or like the really old cousin. But like to have these younger players, especially coming down from EU, and maybe they can, if they see in potential, that's the one thing that EU is particularly known for. If they see potential in a player, they will guide them.
Yes,
because they will have a net positive. They could have a new teammate, give them like a few months, maybe 6 months to a year, and have them on your hand, play with them, do replay analysis with them, sort of coach them to your level, instill in them that mindset that you need to succeed, and to have that from someone who could be legit, you're just your big brother, that could be huge for like the 12, 13, 14-year-olds from SSA.
Well, on that note, I'm currently in talks with CP Zebra, former Orlando Pirates coach and OG of the SSA scene, and also with the Bromeo, who the head admin for RSC, and getting more and more involved in the community. But we're looking in the off season, so after Major 2, so around June, we're looking at dates and format and all of that. But we're going to have an under 16 talent search, a tournament to specifically find the 12 to 15-year-old cracked players who have massive potential. We want to unearth them and get them plugged into the various communities that can exactly what you've just highlighted, Mark, to sort of funnel them and nurture them and channel them in the right direction. And that is going to be huge for us, for a year, 2, 3, 4 years from now. So there we go. I think that's a good place to end it all. This went a lot longer than I thought. I got to be honest. I thought, there's a lot going on, but man, oh man, we are sandwiched between the second and the third qualifiers. We're 2/3 of the way through the first split. The qualifiers are happening this weekend, 95 teams. So all the qualifying is happening on Sunday. So it's a one-day qualifier starting at 5 o'clock. First 2 rounds of best of 3, then best of 5. Top 16 will go through to the main event on Friday, the 1st of March, where we'll have all the Swiss chaos. So that's where we are now. That's where we're going to. Mfish, I appreciate very much you coming here, taking the time. There's been a great conversation. I hope everyone has enjoyed it.
I hope everyone did. I think that's the only thing. And for once, the European was 180 milliseconds too late, right? No one. We sort of we flipped the title here. So, but yeah, I hope everyone had a good time. And we'll see you hopefully next weekend as well on the official. On the official or unofficial broadcast.
To be announced, one way or the other.
To be announced.
There's going to be a broadcast. And yeah, I love the title, 180 milliseconds too late. I know, never in my wildest dreams did I think it would become appropriate in this way that it has. But how awesome that it is. Until then, from myself, Greybeard, and my special guest tonight, Mfish, we'll see you about. Peace!
Peace!